guests on the show today. This Zoom meeting screen is going to get crowded. It's actually an international gathering. To start with, a friend of Mike Boone's, our producers, Toronto Mike. It's a friend of his, actually his best friend. His wife and 3 kids decided this would be the year they backpack around the world. They left in July and started hearing about the coronavirus while in Australia, I guess last December, January. By the time they were in Laos, countries were shutting their borders, and Trudeau, our prime minister, was calling Canadians home. So their story is that they're in Thailand now. They'll be Zooming us in about 25 minutes. We'll speak to them. Joanne Natali is in Italy, and how do you know her, Fred?
One of my daughter's good friends, Joanne, is her sister and lives in Milan, Italy, and has been right in the middle of it all. Fascinating story. So she's living it as we speak. In Italy, it just doesn't seem to be getting any better. If anything, it's worse. And she's going to tell us a few stories that even now will leave you scratching your head as far as social distancing goes over there.
Well,
if they're not getting it over there to some degree, we have no hope over here, I guess. I don't know.
Well, the email you sent to me that she had sent to you, it's one of those things I wish I could share the screen with people, because it's unbelievable, the story that you're going to hear from this woman and what they're going through. And one of the things that we learned is, China and South Korea and Italy. In fact, when we were speaking to Rachel's brother last week from Geneva, he was saying that, one of the things we should learn is, he said something like, China and Italy are a letter from the future. And this morning, this woman from Italy will explain to us what our future could be if we don't, take these measures. And finally, who else, Freddie? Gordie Johnson.
Gordie Johnson for Big Sugar has a new album coming out, so he's going to check in, say hello, and, I guess keeping with the theme, we can ask him, what does a rock star with a new album, who I'm sure would like to be out promoting it, what do you do in these situations? And when I say promoting, nowadays, all the money comes from, performing.
That's right.
Being live, doing concerts. So that is, again, it's just another thing. Everything you think of is somehow tied to this. I mean, and that's no great revelation, but I'm just sitting here with him. Like, all these artists now who don't make a lot of money because streaming pays so little, they need to be out on a stage, and there ain't no stages set up right now. So
as I was walking along the wasteland that is the Queensway where I live, I'd taken the dog out for a walk yesterday afternoon out in the neighborhood, took him to a park. It was empty. And then I thought, I'll just walk along. And this is about, I guess I was 5 or 6 blocks of the Queensway. And I walked along, and I'm going to get to your point about musicians. But, you're walking along, and it's sort of weird because all that's opened is, like, I think there's a Burger King. The Costco was still open. Tim Hortons was open. But all the little businesses, all the nail salons, the pizza places, they're all shut down. And they all have signs that say, takeout only or pickup only. But I saw a poster for somebody whose album comes out March 27th. And I can't tell you who the artist was, but I had that thought of what you just said. I thought, well, what are they going to do? Because all the album is supposed to do is promote the artist so that when they go on tour, someone will want to see those people play.
Yeah. We're lucky the way we're set up, and it just happens to be what we do. We can continue on. But again, I go back to last week on the news, hearing some bar owners talk and saying, a lot of them, it's obviously a cash driven walk-in business that they're only good for a couple of weeks, so they're going to need some great cooperation from their financiers. They just are. And even to that point, if the bank comes back to you and says, okay, your November mortgage payment or your November rent will defer it. Deferral means you still got to pay it, but at some other time. So that means you're going to double up somewhere down the line. Like, can people even handle that?
I think there's going to be a lot of people refinancing, and there's going to be a lot of deal making because the Canadian banks in general around the world, they're going to be very careful because when the economy and things start to return to normal, they can't be seen to being gouging people either. And they're the thing is they've also got to be careful because if they want customers, they're going to have to help people out just as you described in that situation.
Well, and Howard, I may be naive, but when you see the bank profits every quarter, billions of dollars, here in Canada I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The banks take a lot of money out of the system, out of the pockets of Canadians. You know, they might want to think about putting a little back in. If that means forgiving a couple of months, I don't know if that's possible, the way we're structured. But if at all, it's even like a 50% forgiveness on a mortgage payment or something, they've got to step up.
Well, as I said, they got to step up, or they have to do something, whether it's negotiate or mitigate, because if they don't do something, they won't have any customers left.
Yeah, but where are they going to go? What are they going to do?
But I'm saying if they don't help...
they'll be out of business.
They'll be out of business. If they don't help people stay in business either through this or when it's over, there'll be no customers. Also on the show today, we're going to get it. I mean, we're going to have to fit this Trump stuff in between all these guests. But at some point, too, there's a couple of interesting things I saw online. I think I mentioned it. I can't remember if it was on the air, but Jeremy Taggart and a bunch of other people had worked on a pilot for a show where kind of like Live from Daryl's House, where they basically got a bunch of musicians together and did a song. And Tara Lightfoot, who's been a guest on our show, Taggart, who's a friend of ours, and a few other people from the Trues and a few others. I just want you to go and search it out because it's basically all of them playing a Blue Rodeo song, Lost Together. And I got to tell you, it'll just make you feel good. If nothing else, just go find it. I saw it on Twitter, Jonathan Torres' Twitter feed as well. Just Google it. I tried to find the actual video on YouTube to share it on our Facebook page, but I couldn't.
That's one of my favorite Blue Rodeo songs.
I told you you'd love it, man.
That's sitting by the fire having a scotch and cranking that up, singing along with it. Oh, man. Is that going to happen this summer? Will we be sitting near fires? And if we are, like, I'll be sitting at my fire and Dan will be over there sitting at his fire.
Well, and the good thing about Dan
Shepard and Shep will be at his fire.
The good thing about Dan being at his fire is you can get all scotched up and still yell at him for being a commie.
The only problem is he's not going to be able to walk over close to me and pour a scotch.
Oh, wait a second. Dan, are you going to be able to get maybe Dan will get a long tube so he can suck out your scotch when you go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Maybe a crazy straw.
What's that, Dan?
Maybe there should be a central location for the scotch.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And what about
from afar?
And what about when you guys start fighting with one another?
Well, it'll just get louder than it normally is.
Phil Hong, where'd you go? He turned his camera off. Oh, there he is. Are you worried?
His connection maybe down.
Why don't you not want Dan to see you in your basement T-shirt?
I just have an overheating computer and a furnace on, so I have some technical difficulties.
Okay, you can turn it off then.
We have a feature. Fred and I have a feature that is left over from when Darren owned that trailer that Fred's in, because Fred's right next door to me. But our sound systems are connected together, so we can actually play one another's music. So we could have separate fires and play the same music in at each fire, and then it's just a decision of whose music we decide to play.
And there's often
which
a
Fred prefers his.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't understand. Like, all I hear was stories of Fred going over and telling you to turn your music down. Does he not
text him?
Or text him?
Yeah, I'll go to bed. I'll go to bed, and he'll still be out there by the fire, and I'll text him. Can you turn that down, please? Yeah. It's great. That's the coward's way out, eh? I don't say it to his face now. I text him.
Well, no, but what I didn't want to. I wasn't saying. Well, great, but what I was wondering though is if you have access to each other's music, do you not have access to actually turn his music down?
No.
Yeah. Well, yes, I would. Not at your place, but I would at my place. Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Well, if Fred's the source of the music, then he could turn off his music.
Oh, I
but
see.
He can't turn up and down my side of it because my system uses.
I can only imagine how riveting this conversation is for the people. They're like, "Oh, the world is ending." But you know what? This is what people need. They just need normal conversation between three friends talking about old times when we used to sit by a fire.
True. Hey, on that point.
Yes.
You know, I keep saying to my wife, I says to her,
I say,
this is, you know, and everybody's saying, this is surreal. You know, we're watching a documentary, a CNN documentary yesterday called Unknown Enemy. And it was made in 2017, almost 3 years ago. And it was predicting, it was talking about, you know, epidemics and pandemics and more or less predicting one was going to happen in the near future, and here we are, and it's just chilling to watch this thing. And as I said to Delise, you know, a lot of people I'm sure say this. It's surreal. Like we're hardly into this yet. There's still a bit of novelty of hunkering down and watching Netflix and watching shows, but this is going to wear thin pretty quickly. And when you see these documentaries or these predictions, it's like. You know, more and more, it's going to be harder to keep your mind off that. And the overall psyche of the country is something to think about because it's not going to be pretty.
Well, as I mentioned to you last week, you don't want to watch that 2011 Matt Damon film. What is the name of it? I watched it. What's it called,
Contagion?
Phil?
Pandemic.
No, I think it's Contagion.
Contagion.
Yeah.
Contagion. Yeah.
You don't want to watch that now. Because it seems more like a documentary than a work of fiction. Right now, it's Dan Duran time, and what we've done, and you guys won't be able to hear it, but Phil put it together, and it's actually us singing the Dan Duran theme. One of the best times we've done it, including Dan Duran singing. So just take 30 seconds, boys, while I play this. Dan Duran weather, Dan Duran. Dan Duran weather, Dan Duran, It really was a good one. I wish you guys could have heard it, but everyone else on the radio did. Dan Duran, just lean right into that giant microphone of yours and tell us what we can expect.
Well, for the next couple of days, there's a high-pressure system that's right over most of southern Ontario, and it's going to be kind of mild and reasonable for the next few days. So like today and tomorrow, we're looking at 7, 8, and then tomorrow 9 degrees, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit more. And then the next sort of bit of weather that's coming our way is on Thursday. There's a little bit of a system that's going to come through and maybe a millimeter of rain dropping as we get to the warmest day of the week, which will be somewhere between 10, 11, 12 degrees. And then by the time we get to the weekend, that's when the next real weather event will be coming in. Friday night into Saturday, it looks like there may be a fair bit of rain heading our way. But most, especially for Toronto, after they had that snow yesterday, especially for Toronto, the temperatures will be warm as we get in through the weekend. We might get a little bit of rain on Saturday and Sunday both. But what I was saying about Toronto is that most of the temperatures, the overnight lows, are above zero for the overnight. So if you have maple syrup trees in Toronto.
Is that typical?
This time of year we should be seeing -2 for the overnight, so it's not too far off. So 7 and -2 would be seasonal in Toronto.
I was looking out at the trees because that's all you can do now. It's all you can do. And excuse my ignorance, but I thought those buds on the trees were left over from last year, but Rachel pointed out that those were new buds. And so it seems that the virus will not interrupt the foliage that is to come in the weeks and months ahead.
The foliage, no.
No.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, on the continuing with the mental
anguish.
Well, the mental anguish or the mental health of people going forward is the way to put it. You know, I hope it's an early spring because that'll help. Because if we are all still, you know, ordered to stay in our homes or in all the social distancing, at least decent weather will help get us through it. But if it drags on like it did last year, I mean, that'd suck. But
well, considering last year, you almost slit your wrists. I hope you're right. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't remember if it was during one of our talks as well. I said to you, if you wanted to come with Rachel and I know Doll's foot is still hurting her, but if you wanted to come with Rachel and I and the dog when we go for our hike later today, if it's nice enough, or in the weeks ahead if it's nice enough, I think you're right. Like just getting outside, even yesterday with the dog walking around, it wasn't much, but it was a change of pace. And I think you're right. I think that people are still attached to the novelty of what's going on. But I can tell you that at some point, and I kind of want to give our Prime Minister some, you know, whatever praise, because we're just going to have to suck it up. You know, people in other generations and in world wars and in times of crisis, they just got on with it. They just did what they were told for the greater good. And it's just not in our pampered North American psyches to do that. But I'll tell you where they are doing that, it has made a difference.
Well, you want to look to your, you know, in times like this, whether you're liberal or conservative or you support the NDP, times like this, you want to support your leader. And it's been pretty easy to support this guy, his leadership, his logic, his demeanor. That's what you want to do. I mean, there's time for politics some other time. He's not bringing politics into it. He seems to be doing what's right for Canadians. So the best thing to do is support that guy because he is the guy and he's making it easy. And again, we could use that as a segue into what's going on in the States, and we maybe talk about that later, but I think that's where he's ringing all the bells. Same with Ford. I mean, a lot of people, he was absolutely despised and hated universally, province-wide it seems, but now all of a sudden, people are going, you know what, I'm going to stand back and let this man do his job. And he's done a fine job.
Well, yeah, it's interesting how people that hate the Liberals are supportive of Prime Minister Trudeau. People that hate the Conservatives here in Toronto are supportive of Doug Ford, because I think like I said, there's a segment of us that are just going, okay, this is our situation. Mm-hmm. This is our chance to do what our parents and their parents had to do, which is just suck it up and just do what we're told. And I love what Trudeau said. Enough is enough. We're not screwing around anymore. Versus the guy that's batshit crazy at the podium yesterday. It's so funny. When we finally get to that, we'll tell the story of you texting me. I had just shut it off yesterday evening, but at least our Prime Minister is looking in the camera and saying, "Listen, this is not a drill. It's time for us to just do what we're told."
And let's appreciate this too. The man has a minority government. If there was ever a situation where a guy had to sort of be obsessed with his political future through a crisis, as Trump is, that's all Trump cares about is getting reelected, it would be Trudeau. But that's not even part of the equation. Think about that. He could be brought down at any second. And to the credit of the Conservatives, who are the opposition and can bring this government down, they've been very quiet, which is classy and makes me so proud to be a Canadian.
And I think that's true all across Canada. The provincial premiers of everybody's sort of rallying. This is a cause that's greater than politics, and it's for our society, saving our society. And I think we're all kind of feeling that at a certain level. And like Howard's been saying about getting past the denial stage, which I think we're all kind of still in a way. It's like hard to believe
I'm saying what I'm saying about that is sort of what Fred's saying right now. Some of us are in denial. Some of us are finding it, this is kind of fun. We're playing Scrabble and watching Netflix. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you guys aren't watching Tiger King, one day you will, and you'll thank me for telling you. It's bananas. But
Well, I'm going to watch that after I'm into second season of Succession, and soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to move on to that.
I was
It's Tiger King.
It's
Is it
Tiger
called?
King.
All right.
It's. I'm telling you right now, in the weeks to come, when you finally get to Tiger King, we're all going to be part of this. It's like making of a murder or making of a murder, whatever that was called, except with giant cats. Anyway,
If I can make one more point before the break.
well, no, it's right. It's 7:25. But
Okay, you talk about social distancing, even if it's just two of you in a house.
Yes.
It might be a good idea to social distance even that, because after a while, I mean, seriously, you know.
No, what are you saying? You and Dahl wants you out of the house?
No, I'm not saying we're getting along fine, but I'm just saying after a few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
What's that going to be like?
Oh, I agree.
With this, so.
Everybody needs their own time alone, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, we've got Joe, friend of Mike Boone's, Toronto Mike's best friend is coming up. I mentioned he's in Thailand with his family. It's a fascinating story. And just like we point out, Fred and I, every day, of all the different things you would never think of, we've got a story of a family that was traveling and now is stuck in Thailand. We'll talk to them when we come back. It's Humble and Fred Radio. We're live on Funny 820, and of course around the world you can listen to us at humbleandfredradio.com.
I want all the world to know that your love's all I need, all that I need.
I was gonna mention that.
All right. I know that's low. Hang on. Welcome back, everybody. It's great to have you along with us on this, bizarre time in all of our lives. It's the 24th of March. First few days of spring. We're going to get some warmer weather. Phil's in Woodbridge, Fred's in Brampton, I'm in Toronto. And with us is our producer, Toronto Mike Boone's best friend since kindergarten. He is a teacher. His wife's a nurse. And this was the year, Fred, they decided they would take their kids and backpack around the world. And Joe finds himself stuck in Thailand. Hi, Joe. Can you hear us?
Yep, heard you loud and clear.
Okay, very good. Just give us some background. You guys decided you take the kids. How old are the kids?
Our oldest is 11, and we have twin 9-year-olds.
Wow, that was an ambitious project, and bad timing though, eh, Joe?
yeah, it's not the greatest right now, but we got a good 9 months in before this, so we're doing okay right now, but we're just hunkering down.
Joe, before we get to where you are now, where were you a month or two ago when you heard about this virus, and then what was your action?
We started hearing about this like everybody else, I guess, around New Year's time. So we were in Australia at the time. We just kept going. Since Australia, we went to Indonesia, Malaysia. We've been to Laos, been to Thailand before this. We just came back so we could get to somewhere a little safer than where we were. We were supposed to be in Vietnam at this time, but we had to change plans because they closed the borders on us.
So when were you supposed to be home? Say nothing, there was no pandemic, everything worked out perfectly. When were you supposed to be home? Still in a couple of months from now?
Yeah, so we rented our house out for the year. So we've got somebody living in there, and we're supposed to take possession again July 1st. So we couldn't come home even if we wanted to because we have nowhere really to stay.
So
no family, no friends? What about Boone?
Boone, you stay at Boone's place?
Yeah.
I joked with him about staying in his basement, but I think that would cramp his style.
Well, you can stay in his basement, but only if you pay him to produce a podcast. So, Joe, your wife's a nurse. You're a teacher. You've got kids 11 and 9, and you're currently where? Where did we talk to you today?
We're in Phuket, Thailand.
And where are you staying? What kind of a home or a Airbnb?
Well, while we're traveling, we always try to find the cheapest place. Sometimes it's a hostel, sometimes it's an Airbnb. Right now, we are in an Airbnb. We've got a 2-bedroom. It's got a semi-private pool. So it's nice. It's warm. I can't complain.
Well, what are the streets like in Phuket now? Like, are people generally aware, and are they social distancing? Without tourists, is it pretty barren? Describe it.
It is, compared to what it should be like. If you look at pictures from before, it's really, really quiet.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of European tourists here, but it is quiet. Like, you could walk down the street and see nobody, or lots of people, lots of locals are wearing masks. Most of the tourists aren't, but occasionally you'll see one or two.
So, Joe,
wearing yep.
Joe, we're hearing, North America, at least in Canada, social isolating and only going out rarely and all of that. Now, isn't that the situation where you are, and where are you getting your groceries, and what do you do all day? You've got all these kids in 2 bedrooms.
Well, social isolation is happening here. Like, I don't want to say it's easier here. It's because you could go out for a walk, which is nice. You don't have to run into people because there's not too many people on the streets right now. If you go to the grocery stores, they're always pretty packed, but it's not like people are hoarding or anything. There's just regular I'm going grocery shopping kind of thing. If we go to the beach, You know, you could stake out a nice little piece of the beach and have about 20 feet in every direction without touching somebody.
All right.
How are you getting local information? Obviously, there's a wealth of world information on your computer, but what about local information? Like if there was a lockdown tomorrow in Phuket, how would you know?
Honestly, most of the time it's through Facebook. I'm on a couple of backpacker things on Facebook, but the news is pretty good here. So all I do is look up coronavirus Phuket, and I can find different things. Like I know as of today's the 24th. As of today, there's a lockdown on pretty much everything. So just like Ontario, everything has to go into lockdown. And one of the crazy thing is all pools have to be locked down, even if it's a private pool. You're not allowed to go into a pool at all, and you risk a 100,000 baht fine, which is about, I think it's like $450 or something.
Well, that makes sense.
No, $4,500.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It makes sense. I mean, pools are pretty gross anyway. So
No,
what?
really, the virus would live in a pool, eh? Like that's news to me.
So with your kids, though, what do you said you're a teacher. Your wife's a nurse. What do what do your children do all day? Just hang out with mom and dad?
For 266 straight days.
How's
So yes.
your wife? Is she? What does she think of all this? She's a nurse. She's a healthcare practitioner. Is she being called into action in Thailand?
Well, no one here knows what she does, right? So, but I don't like. She really didn't follow the news at all. All the information was coming through me, and I kind of like we knew what was happening, and I kind of gave her information, but she's not really looked into it until relatively recently. So like until a couple of days ago, it wasn't really a major worry. You know, we still do all the stuff, the social distancing. We always practice washing our hands and things like that. So it's kind of the same old for us right now.
Well, that's interesting. And really, I got to hand it to you. I mean, an 11-year-old and two 9-year-olds to strap on some backpacks and travel around the world. That in itself would be a challenge. And
Yeah.
you know, add this to it. And I guess even if you arrive home in July 1st, you're still going to have to self-isolate for 14 days. I think regardless of the situation we're in at that time here, right? Are you under that impression?
Oh, no doubt. You know what? That's why we didn't want to come home right away. Is we know it's going to have to happen. We're just going to have a place to do it and feel comfortable.
Right.
So we might as well stay in self-isolation here. We're going to have the same stuff here, except it's warm. We don't have any fear of snow or anything.
Yeah, it's a big fear here. Hey, Joe, listen, I think that's a great point that any young parents that took on this project that you have, that's a lot to take on. It's a lot of stress, and then you add this to it. So we'll just wish you the best. Stay healthy. Thanks for taking some time this morning. We can hear the kids in the background. They're like, "Are you speaking to old people?"
So, are you schooling them as well on top of everything else over the year?
Yes, trying to. Like a lot of our days are usually going to different places and checking out different things.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's a lot of the schooling. And little things come along the way. Like every day is okay. We got to figure out what our math problems of the day is. Figuring out how much money we're actually spending in Canadian funds rather than whatever country we're in.
Right.
So, yeah, we have to do schooling along the way, but there's a lot of learning along the way that is just why we're doing this.
Well, listen,
Well,
man.
good on you.
Yeah, good on you, and thank you so much for taking some time, and hopefully we'll check in with you from time to time, and you can give us an update from that part of the world. All the best to you and your family, okay?
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Oh, my goodness.
Joe.
Thank you, my friend. All
right.
right. Take care, Joe.
Take care.
All right. It's Humble and Fred Radio. We are live on Funny 820. As you all know, of course, you can always hear us if you download the podcast. How do I remove that? Okay. Do you want to remove? Yes, I do. Freddie, tell us a little bit about what's going on with Gig Sky.
Well, as concerns surrounding the spread of COVID-19 continue to grow, Gig Sky completely aligned with the recommendations of the World Health Organization and support the idea of working from home where possible while reducing travel with the aim of minimizing risk of the global community. The top priority at Gig Sky is the safety of its customers, international partners, and global workforce. And for those that are displaced from home, they're doing all they can within their capacity to minimize the stress associated with being away from or being away during the global pandemic. With that in mind, Gig Sky is offering a discount for anyone needing that extra bit of data while hunkering down at home or still on the road. Simply enter the code EXTRA10 at the checkout at gigsky.com. EXTRA10 at the checkout at gigsky.com, and you can supplement your data through Gig Sky at a reduced price. It's fantastic. It's what they're doing. It's their part during these trying times. And they're very trying, these times.
These times are trying. Sound a little Trumpian there for a second. You know how he does that thing where he'll read something that he was told to read, and then he does this other weird thing where he kind of comments on it like he knows. He does it so that he wants you to know that he knows what it means. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, no, I know. And if he says a word, you can see his eyes go up and he thinks, that sounded like a good word.
Exactly.
I'm going to say it again. Yeah.
It's fun. Okay, well, I got to talk about Clear Air Solutions, and we got a great tweet from the town of Coburg. I just want to make sure that I got that right. And these are people. Thanks so much, it says. AIH Technology says, thanks so much to Clear Air Solutions for ensuring the safety of our team with the Aegis Microbe Shield. Town of Coburg is part of this string, and we've been talking about this for a week. We thought it was a great idea, and as I said to you, we're trying to support some people that have supported us. I've mentioned QLD Communications, best friend Dave's company, and 705 KJ Preston and his company, Clear Air Solutions. Normally, they're involved in mold, asbestos, ventilation cleaning. They also are certified Aegis, AEGIS applicators. It's not a disinfectant. It's a long-acting antimicrobial that modifies treated surfaces by creating an in-hospital environment for microbes. I mentioned Metrolinx is using this to treat all their buses and trains. Find out more about it. And I said, I guess when Ken gets a chance, they'll come and do the office here. But just have a look at it. Go to Clear Air Solutions, and like the town of Coburg, get your work area at home, or if you're an essential service, you can get this done simply. They come in and they do all the surfaces, keyboards, mice, everything in the environment. Clear Air Solutions. Well, we got some time now between our now and our next break. And yesterday, Rachel stayed at her place just to get some social distance from me, I guess. Now she's wanted to go to her house for a bit. And so I was watching the press conference as I do, as having my dinner. And I watched it, and it was kind of going on. It seemed sort of normally. They had the Attorney General, what's-his-face, talking about, legislation that would, charge anyone that was involved with price gouging or hoarding essential services. And I was kind of like, I guess everything was making some kind of sense. So I sort of thought, okay, I'm finished eating. I'm going to turn it off now, and I'm just going to go watch Tiger King. That's my new obsession. And then I get a text from Freddie. Says, are you watching this? I call him. I go, what? I just turned it off. And then the nonsense began.
Well, I guess you turned it off
just before
the formal part where it tends to have some sort of degree of logic or
normalcy,
or make sense. And then it's just when they go to questions from reporters, it's just unbelievable. It just all falls apart. And more, I'm looking at those people behind him. He's embarrassing Tony Fauci.
He wasn't there yesterday. Did you notice that? The last couple
Yeah. And I don't know what you can write into that, because he missed another news conference a couple of days ago, and he said he was busy doing something else. But the woman too, what's her name? I forget
Who's that, Phil? She's not. She's another healthcare. She's another. Yeah, I don't know her, but she's
from the Department of Health. Is she?
Yeah, she's a grown-up.
Yeah. Anyway, he's embarrassing her. I should know her name. I shouldn't bring it up unless I know her name. But anyway, you've seen her. She stands back there in some of her facial expressions. He's embarrassing a lot of intelligent, smart, well-intentioned people through this. And yesterday he threw it out there that, the cure could be worse than the problem itself. And now, just 3 days ago, he said this could last into July or August. Now he's talking about 7 days from now, relaxing the social distancing aspect of this because the economy has to get back on the rails. And it just leaves you shaking your head because this thing is still ramping up in the States.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, they haven't even got close to where it's going to be. And now he's talking about tearing it down. And I don't know what honestly, I don't know what to think of that. Because he's putting everyone at risk, including Canadians. I mean, come on, we're right beside them.
Well,
and it's all about him. It's all about the election in November. It's all about that economy. Apparently, they say he's so obsessed with the stock market that he can't think straight. So,
well, here's what's bothering him. All the gains that have been made in the time that he was president. Now, I say it that way because I don't attribute those to his presidency. But let's just say all those gains that were made in the 3 point whatever years it's been have all been wiped away in the last 3 weeks. And rather than just say to himself, well, this is where I'm at, this is what we have to do, and maybe I'll get reelected if I handle this well. Now when he started talking last night, when I turned it back on, about relaxing things, like what, it was, as you said, just a few days ago, he's holding up the blue card like a little kid at school saying, look, I know what to do. We're going to flatten the curve. And now he's saying, well, we're going to reopen the economy. And the phrase that you just mentioned, when he said the cure, he said, you got to be careful that the cure isn't worse than the problem. And I thought about that because logically it makes sense, except when you stop the cure and the problem becomes everybody dies, then it's not worse than the problem. And the fact I just want to say one last thing. The fact that he doesn't see that, but he's not alone, Fred. He's got a bunch of people around him that are feeding that to him as well, feeding back to him as well.
And again, I don't know what to think. Are they smarter than we are? Like, I don't know. But health, what good is money without health? What good is money if half your family's dead? And that may sound extreme, but let's look after the virus and then see where everything settles. And he used that ridiculous analogy. Well, more people die in car accidents every year. We don't ban cars. Car accidents aren't contagious.
Yeah. Well, and they're also not predictable.
And And I guess there's some graph somewhere that says, this year there'll be probably this many, but it's completely different. They're not. It's such a ridiculous analogy. And that turd on Fox News, Sean Hannity, he uses that all the time.
No, I know.
It's like it doesn't make sense.
But the funny thing is, I used it back in January before we knew what it was. But here's the thing I don't understand. Whether it's Hannity or these other people that follow Trump, I got to stop doing it because I keep going and seeing the people that comment on his tweets, the people that still support him, some of the people we actually know that still support him. I just think, are we in the wrong lane here? Are we missing the bigger picture? Is he actually a genius and we're just not smart enough to catch, what he's saying?
No, I don't get it. And and again, you talk about extremes. I've got to believe in humanity, that within the Republican Party, a lot of these guys that were big mouths during the impeachment thing, again, a whole different issue, that were very vocal in support of the president, you don't hear so much of them anymore. And
Yeah.
you just have to wonder what these people are thinking. And then, you start thinking about the 25th Amendment. Like, at some point, do they have to get together and go, we've either got to reel this guy in or get rid of him? I mean, seriously. And then Andrew Cuomo from New York State. I mean, there's a president, there's a guy in control. And again, I listened to Buffalo Radio a couple of weeks ago. There's still people in Western New York who hate Cuomo. They still support the president.
Yeah.
And again, it's the type of thing, I would like to be inside their brains to see their perspective, how you could still support this guy after all of this. Now he's putting your life at risk.
Well, a couple things on that. If you don't believe in science as a sort of baseline, I know I've been joking about this show I'm watching, Tiger King, but one of the things about it is it just shows you the average temperament, mental state of mind of some of those people in Oklahoma and people in Florida and people in the southern states. And I know we like to make fun of them, but what I'm learning by watching this show is, like, those are the Trump supporters. They believe in God. They don't believe in science. They think the government's too big. So just to finish my point, if you don't believe in science in general, then when somebody tells you if you don't stay away from each other, we're all going to get in trouble here, like those kids at spring break. By the way, there was a story on CNN this morning. 5 of those little effers that were at Florida spring break have all come down with the coronavirus.
Well, I'm not surprised.
Well, of course you're not surprised, because that's the mentality. I don't want to just say the American mentality, but watching this show the last couple of days and the kind of people that are on camera talking about, their lifestyle, it's no wonder he still has support, to be honest with you.
No, I can't figure it out. In fact, I'm almost exhausted by it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, even as you say, within Canada, I've had some correspondence back and forth with a couple of people over the past week, and it's like, I don't know what to think. It's, there was a while, I think, where it was cool to be if you had the balls to do it, to be a Trump supporter, because you knew more than the average guy. You were tuned in, to the economics and everything and what he was doing for the world. Well, I think that ship has sailed now, because it's beyond economics. Again, the economics were always a gray area. What we know for sure, black and white, is the man is an idiot. So.
Well, I'll tell you, as I said to you off our show, I don't know if he starts opening up the economy and people start interacting again too soon, I don't know if I want my daughter living there anymore, to be honest with you.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a big chance to take, because, he's hoping that everything's fine. It's an overreaction, and the economy comes back, and nobody gets sick. And aren't I the greatest man who ever lived?
Yeah. Well,
but if it goes the other way, I don't know, man.
Well, I've said this for a couple days now. At some point, he and his family should all go to jail. Watch season 2 of Dirty Money, episode 3, Jared Kushner. Just go watch it and then call us back. It's Humble and Fred Radio. We'll take a break. We're going to talk. We've already spoken to somebody in Thailand today. Coming up, we're going to talk to somebody who's actually in Italy and what they're going through and how it could impact us here in Canada. Come on back. It's Humble and Fred Radio.
Can see the sea, somewhere waiting for me. My lover stands on golden sands and watches the ship.
And welcome back. A little sun is peeking through the dismal vibe that is this pandemic. It's great to have you along if you're listening on Funny 820. This is what we're doing now. If you want to download more of the shows, you can at humbleandfredradio.com. Already this morning, we spoke to somebody who was backpacking around the world with an 11-year-old and two 9-year-old twins when they got stuck where they are in Thailand this morning, Fred. But with us from Italy is a friend of yours.
Well, my daughter's one of her good friends. This is her sister. Sarah Egan is my daughter's friend, and this is her sister, Joanne Natal. Is it Natalie or Natal?
It's Natalie.
Hey, Joanne.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Joanne left Canada in 1993, so you probably didn't hear about how successful we became. It was in all the papers.
Yeah, you left just a little bit early.
That's right. Before the Humble and Fred pandemic. And you moved.
Oh, that's too bad.
No, it was great. We had a great year about 97. It was amazing. And we've been riding it ever since. And so you moved to Italy. It's one of those things people always dream about. What would it be like to live in a foreign country, especially one as beautiful with such rich culture, et cetera, et cetera. You moved there. You've lived there for the better part of 30 years. Give us some context. Where do you live? Where are you now?
Okay, I live in Milan, which is in the region of Lombardy, which is the worst hit region in Italy right now. And I've been in Milan for the most part. I've been in Milan since '97, we live in the southern part of the city. We're within the city limits, but we're not right downtown. And it's a quiet neighborhood, but we have a hospital nearby, so we do hear a lot of ambulances during the day.
Now, Joanne, before we get to the current situation, you mentioned to Fred and I when we were speaking during the break that even though you're Italian, when you moved there, it was a big culture shock. And
yeah, well, it is. It is. I think we all kind of have this idea that everybody lives the same way we do, and attitudes are the same all over. But then when you immerse yourself in a culture, you realize that things are very different, and attitudes are very different, and cultures and values are very different. And even within cultures that you would think would be similar, like Western Europe and North America, although they are quite similar, the differences was a big impact for me when I moved here. And one of the things, probably the biggest and most frustrating, was the bureaucracy. It's unbelievable. If you don't experience it, the stories don't do it justice.
Bureaucracy meaning government and what, red tape for everything you want to do?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, for everything you want to do. Things, and it's gotten better since I've moved here. I mean, obviously, since the internet has made things move a lot smoother and a lot faster. But when I first came here, getting even the simplest things done meant lots of lineups in public offices, and seeing 4 different people and getting 6 different signatures for one thing. It was very complicated, and it has a big impact on how things work here.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to. So without getting into detail about how the culture was different, even though it has changed, it's part of what's happened there now is due to the differences and the sort of inherent cultural thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it was my experience there. It's just a different attitude over there. It doesn't seem to be as much of a rat race as it is in North America. People just seem to enjoy restaurants and family and leisure time more than they do here. And you were saying that almost contributed to the problem they're in now.
That the culture, their culture is why they got in trouble the way they did, and why you're in trouble now.
There's a definite combination of that, and Italians being a very physical people and showing affection physically. When you greet friends, if you go out for drinks and you greet friends, you embrace, and there's the double kiss, and there's a lot of close physical contact. And even in public, when you're with strangers, if you're in a queue or you're lining up to get something done, the space between people is much less than it is in other cultures. So the concept of personal space is very different. So people will be very close to one another, which is obviously a major issue, as we are all learning now. And then there's also very much an attitude of, any kind of government provision or ordinance. It's a suggestion. So, people won't necessarily take it terribly seriously at first, which is what happened here. And it wasn't taken very seriously at first.
Right.
Well,
Sorry.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
One issue that happened very, very early on, and it's kind of become a little bit of a scandal, was that when the first towns were locked down, which were some small towns just south of Milan, Lodi, Codogno, San Fiorano. These are the names of some of the towns. In Milan, a prominent politician hosted a happy hour in one of the neighborhoods that's famous for its happy hours. It's called the Navigli. It's a neighborhood where there are canals and waterways and a lot of bars and restaurants and cafes. And he encouraged the people of Milan to come out for this happy hour. And his whole attitude is, nothing can stop us in Milan. And look at us, we're having a good time, we're socializing, everything's fine. Which he later then went on to apologize for, because it was an incredible mistake. And later everyone realized that, yes, of course, it's great to show the world that we're strong and we're carrying on, but we also need to be smart, not pull stupid stunts. And that was an incredibly stupid stunt.
So
Well, it started. Oh, I'm sorry.
You
It
go ahead.
started with you. You said you were at a dinner party one night, and I think a lot of people can relate to this.
Yes, absolutely. I can tell you exactly when. It was February 23rd, and we went to a dinner party. There were 6 of us, 3 couples. And of course it came up. The topic of conversation came up because those towns south of Milan had already been locked down, and there had already been some panic buying in supermarkets. And we were joking about it. We were laughing about it amongst ourselves. And look at everybody's, buying up pasta like it's going to run out. It'll never run out. And, it's people are overreacting and everything will be fine. And obviously we were wrong. And it became very clear to us very quickly that we were wrong, because a few days later we found out that one of the hosts of that dinner party, the person who owned the home that we were in, became very, very ill. He tested positive and he was in ICU for a long time. He's still in the hospital. He's out of ICU. He's getting better now, but he's been in the hospital since March 1st or 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to get to, is when did you Italians realize that the guy that threw the happy hour party had probably killed some people?
I think that we started to realize how serious things were getting when the death toll started to go up. Once we hit 50 a day, it became a wake-up call. And when I think back to then, 50 a day seems like a drop in the bucket now.
Yeah. So in your world, it's you and your husband and
my son.
And your son. And now I was just looking at the email that Freddie forwarded to me. There's all these restrictions. And what's one of the things that I said yesterday or the other day on the show about Italy as a letter to us, that because Canada's, cases right now are where Italy was in the early stages.
Yes, exactly.
And we see from what has happened there, we want to learn those lessons. So what is life for you now like, and what lessons can we learn from it?
Well, the first thing I should really point out is that me personally, my husband and I were very fortunate because we've been able to work from home from day one. I was already working from home. Just
what do you do?
My job. I'm a translator, and the company I work for is actually in another region and they hired me and allowed me to work full time from home. So I was very fortunate because I was already set up. My husband had his laptop and he was able to work from home. My son is doing his university courses online. The only time my son leaves the house is when he goes out and does a shift on an ambulance rig. He's on an ambulance crew here in the city of Milan. So once every 10 to 12 days, he has a shift, and he does that.
How does he prepare for that? Like as far as not catching the virus?
Well, when they go out on calls, they have two types of kit on the rigs. They have a regular kit with disposable coveralls, masks, gloves, and goggles. And then for more extreme cases, they have what they call the Ebola kit, which is full hazmat suits. And
Right.
they've never had to use those, fortunately, but they do. When they go out on calls, they put on their disposable kits, and then they transport the patient to a hospital, and then they have to get out of their kits and sanitize the rig before they go out again.
We're talking to Joanne Natali, a Canadian that moved to Italy in 1993. If you're just joining us, it's Humble and Fred. Joanne's in Italy, was there when all of this began, and it's an interesting story, Art, because you're at a dinner party, you're sort of, like a lot of us, thinking it's just the flu and it'll be no big deal. And then, of course, you've lived through what we're about to live through as of midnight tonight in the province of Ontario. Social. In fact, Freddie, did we mention that John Tory declared Toronto and did that just happen?
State of emergency.
State of emergency.
Yeah.
So, if you can, without getting into all the detail in this email, but give us some of the ideas and what's going on in Italy and how people are reacting to it.
Okay, just very quickly. The government started to introduce measures to restrict movement and public assembly at the end of February. They started in certain small towns. Then they tried to expand it to all of Lombardy and some very specific northern provinces. When they did that, unfortunately, news of that leaked. The night before the government actually signed the decree, and so thousands and literally thousands of people flooded the train stations and the highways to get out of the northern regions and head to family in the south. That's how the virus most likely got out of the northern regions. And when that happened, southern governors asked people coming from the north to voluntarily report themselves and to self-isolate. Many probably did, probably just as many didn't. Then the Italian government was forced to apply all of those restrictions that were limited to Lombardy and some very specific northern provinces. They were forced to apply that to the whole country. And that happened on March 11th. And then as people did or didn't respect these things like only leave your home if absolutely necessary, don't assemble in large groups. As it became clear that not enough people were following these instructions, the restrictions became more and more stringent, and more businesses were asked to shut down until they've made a list very similar to the one that was released in Ontario, by the way. I had a look at that this morning. The Italian list of essential businesses and the one that was released in Ontario, they're very, very similar. And so anything that is not on this list of essential businesses as of this week has been completely shut. And now leaving your home for any reason other than shopping for food and seeking medical attention and going to a job that is one of these essential businesses has become a crime. People can take their pets out, their dogs out, but they must remain within 200 meters of their residence.
Wow.
And sorry, just one more thing. We still have to carry a form with us. So if you leave your home, you have to fill out a form. You can either there's an app, so you can have it on your device, or you can print it out and have it on paper. And basically, this form it has been updated to reflect the new restrictions. And you have to state your name and your date of birth, your residence, where you're leaving from, where you're going and why. And then you declare that you are fully aware of the new provisions and that you understand what the sanctions are, and that if you are caught lying, it is a crime. And part of this declaration is also declaring that you have not been placed in mandatory quarantine by the health authorities and that you have not tested positive for coronavirus.
Freddie, what were you going to say?
And so we can get our head around this. Obviously, the hospitals are overwhelmed. We've seen pictures over here of military trucks carrying bodies to crematoriums. I know that sounds awful, but that's what's happening.
It's true.
And the biggest fear, again, is the hospitals are being overwhelmed. If you were to fall and break your leg today, what would you do?
Well,
what would you on
instructions? Yeah, instructions for medical emergencies are they are advising people to not call our equivalent of 911 would be 112 for medical emergencies. They're asking people not to call that number unless it's really an emergency. There are numbers that you call. The first thing they suggest that you do is you call your family physician. For whatever medical issue you have, you call your family physician, you say, look, this is what's happened to me. And then your family physician will make a decision on what to do next. There are also numbers to call if you suspect that you have been infected, if you have symptoms of fever and respiratory difficulties. There are separate numbers for that. So steps have been put in place to deal with other medical situations that aren't related to COVID-19.
Okay.
The reality is that if you do fall and break your leg and you need surgery, you might not get it right away.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you before we let you go, Joanne, and we'd like to maybe check in from time to time, obviously to see how you're doing and to see if there's any progress. Have all the things you've mentioned, all the distancing, the tracking, the testing in Italy, has it made a difference?
Okay. All of the numbers that we have been seeing so far, up until yesterday, all of the numbers that we've been seeing reflected people that were infected before all of these measures were put into place. Because one of the things they keep telling us is that it's a 14-day incubation period. So if we went into severe lockdown on March 11th, everybody that was infected before that, their symptoms have been coming out in the past 14 days. Our numbers are starting to go down. They're starting to go down slowly. They're still really high. On March 21st, new cases were at 4,821. On March 22nd, they were 3,957. And yesterday, they were 3,780. So the numbers are going down.
Okay.
Do you know anyone who's died?
Thankfully, no.
Anyone that's infected beside your friend at the dinner party?
Not to my knowledge.
Joanne, stay well.
Wait, I'm sorry. His wife was sick, but it wasn't severe. She isolated at home.
Okay. Well, listen, thanks very much for taking some time. What a bizarre time we're all living in, and we certainly appreciate you. Hopefully this has been a somewhat of a diversion for you today.
It was a nice break to my workday. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, my gosh. It was a pleasure speaking to you. And
thank you.
We'll definitely talk another time. All the best to you, Joanne.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, Joanne.
Bye, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Down. Did you see, how do we get rid of that? Just say goodbye. Just hang up. There you go.
What's that, Howard?
Did you guys, during the Joanne interview there, I just looked over and Dan Duran just popped up all of a sudden.
What does he want?
I don't know. I think he did. I think he came on by mistake. All of a sudden, I saw Dan's name there. I'm like, what's up? And then he just went away. It's this brand new world. We're doing the show via Zoom. I'm in Toronto, Etobicoke. Fred's in Brampton. Phil's in Woodbridge. Hey, Phil. All right. Phil's still there. Phil, how's it going there, Phil? You okay?
Oh, things are going well, and our Twitch room is looking good as well. People are talking.
Are we back broadcasting on Facebook?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Well, goodness. I'm glad that's working. Fred, let's talk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, we got 3 or 4 minutes before our next break, and we got to get a couple things in. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was saying as far as the social distancing goes, I guess it depends where you are. You were saying the Queensway was pretty deserted.
Yeah.
Like my neighborhood, when I go out for a walk, it's, even at the, I don't want to say worst of times, but even at the most busy of times, there's not a lot of activity in my neighborhood. It's a lot of empty nesters and what have you. So it's very easy to go out here and enjoy the outside without really encountering people. And I guess it all depends on where you are.
Well, it's funny. Even though there's not many people walking the promenade of the Queensway, I did notice, and this has happened a couple times with me and Stan just on our walks, that we're all just kind of unconsciously walking around each other. And I've noticed I'm doing that. Like, if I'm walking down the street and I see somebody walking towards us, usually with a dog, I can sort of make the excuse like, he's not very friendly, because we know he's not. But I crossed the street a couple times. I'm like, I just don't need to be near anybody right now.
Yeah, I went by a couple yesterday, just one, and they had sort of stopped in the middle of the walkway, so I went around them and probably more distance than I normally would.
Of course. Hey, can we talk a little bit about CDN Technologies? CDN Technologies, what a great service they're providing, because if you're having problems with your computer, wherever it is, they can come and they'll just remotely take it over and fix your network.
Yeah, say it's unbelievably slow and you can't take it anymore. Well, cdntechnologies.com, they can help you with that. If your current IT team is spending way too long on problems, CDN Technologies, as Howard says, can take over the system, have a look, and help you expedite that. If you're worried about getting hacked or a data breach, again, they can help you with that. If your current computer company is not stepping up to the plate, so to speak, and helping you with your problems, CDN Technologies, they are a step above. They will get it done for you. cdntechnologies.com, or you can call them 905-542-9759.
Chamberplan.ca, that's where you find out about the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan, Canada's #1 for employee benefits. And, I listen, they've got a COVID-19 page for information and updates. And as Joanne just said, in answer to your question about what do you do if you break your leg, if you have the Chambers plan, you can use the teledoc feature and literally speak to a doctor within a very short period of time. If you're part of the plan, this will be included. It's all there. Go and check it out now and get a free quote. It's for smaller businesses like ours, between 1 and 100 employees. And listen, if my story of what happened to me in the States when I was in the hospital there in Phoenix, and what it would have cost me, like, I can't imagine, because I did have a little insurance with my credit card, and I didn't get the, whatever you can buy, but I just can't imagine going through that without the Chambers plan. So check it out, chamberplan.ca. All our sponsors are listed and looking for your support at our website, humbleandfredradio.com. And we're going to talk to, who are we talking to when we come back now?
Gordie Johnson, A Big Sugar. He's just released an album, and we'll talk to him. How has this affected musicians? Many levels, I'm sure.
That's right. Music in the time of the virus. When we come back, it's Humble and Fred Radio. Welcome back. It's Humble and Fred Radio. Each day that goes by, we always seem to uncover different parts of our world, our culture, our economy, our lives. It's almost like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. For instance, when an artist wants to release new music, as we spoke about earlier, Freddie, you know, the model has become you release music, you don't make a lot online or in sales, but what you do is you hope to create interest so that people will come and watch you live. Of course, the live aspect completely, done with now.
For now.
Freddie?
No, exactly. And I mean, this man can speak to that. Gordy Johnson of Big Sugar, who has just released an album. And good morning, Gord.
Good morning.
The first question we might ask you is, you know, a lot of things, be it the Olympics and everything, has been put off for a while. You ever think of putting off the release of an album in a situation like this?
Yeah, we've actually done that with Universal Music. They've decided to delay the release until May. Mm-hmm. It was going to come out this week, but we decided to push it back till May, which I guess from the live performance aspect, that makes sense. I don't know. I doubt this will all be like sorted out by May. I think we'll still find ourselves sequestered come May. But I guess, you know, we'll put it out because Lord knows people are sitting at home looking for stuff to listen to and look at online. So
for sure.
I guess, yeah.
What I wanted to say, though, by way of introduction, is we've spoken to somebody in Thailand this morning. We've spoken to somebody just before you in Italy and what they're going through. And, yeah, I know music's important and obviously lives and careers in the music business. But here you are in Texas today, another person in a different part of the world. And we're all dealing with the same thing. And even though this conversation can be through a filter of music and putting out and touring and all that stuff, but let's just take it down to the basics. How are you feeling? How are you doing? And where are you in Texas?
Oh, feeling healthy. I mean, it doesn't affect all of us physically. Just it's more the mental stress of it. There's a lot of uncertainty, which I had kind of joked to my wife recently. It's like, wow, everyone kind of knows what it's like to be in a band now. Your future's uncertain. You can sleep till noon every day. You can stay up super late watching entire series. It's
right.
Like being on tour.
Yeah.
It's like being on tour, only without the rock show part of it. So there's that. It's just trying to, to keep your head together when, it's alarming. Have you all seen any of these drone footage of these huge American cities and cities all over? The drone footage they're showing of like downtown Los Angeles, and it's a complete ghost town.
Yeah.
There's just nobody anywhere. It's like Austin in the 1980s now.
Well, I was going to say, you're old enough to remember those movies with Kurt, what's his face, Escape from New York? That's what everything looks like now. Where in Texas are you?
Central Texas, just outside of Austin.
Okay.
And you've been living there for 20 years, so it's not like you're a Canadian who's down there and is supposed to come home. You are home.
Well, no, they still play the race card on me a lot.
Oh, do they?
You get branded as the Canadian.
The Canadian race card. I'd wear that proudly. You and your family, are you isolating where you are?
Yeah, stuck in place. We were gonna be in Canada. Already come up for we usually come up during spring break for the kids, or like to come up and have a record release show, a couple of concerts, things like that. But that's all just been, as our travel dates approached, it became clear that we were not going to be doing any traveling.
The reaction to this has been different all over North America, United States in particular. We saw scenes from Florida, the beaches, and parts of San Francisco where people really weren't adhering to it. What's it been like in Texas? Is everybody pretty much conformed out of the gate once they were told to?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say much more so. And it's just, I don't know, I guess it's just neighborly. It's a neighborly thing to do. I mean, we've got senior citizens living in our community, so rather than everybody taking a car and a couple of people and going to the local grocery store, we've been going, I go solo or my wife goes solo and pick up what we need and what our neighbors need to try and minimize, especially people at risk, minimize their going out. So if it's just the smallest thing, like a bunch of bananas and a cart of milk and some toilet paper for the neighbors, and just leave it on their porch. It's every little thing you can do to help minimize, especially people at risk going out.
As I think you heard me say, we spoke to somebody in Thailand and Italy today, and in various, the woman that we just spoke to, Joanne, in Italy, talking about just how serious it is and the lessons we can learn in Canada. I know we've asked you this kind of one way. Are people there where you are, and then secondarily in America, are they taking this as seriously?
Everybody I'm in contact with is taking it very seriously. And I have friends, in our business. Of course, we know people all over the world that travel the world to do what we do and play music. Everybody I know is taking this very, very seriously. And it's, it's a big hit to our industry, but it's a big hit to every industry, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I certainly, I watch with some shock and horror at beaches full of people, and you know what I mean? It's like, you just have to look at a stack of coffins in Italy to take it a little more seriously. It's like, don't feel like it can't affect any and all of us.
Yeah. So what do you think when you see the president talk about easing the restrictions and let's get the economy moving again, and some lieutenant governor saying, well, I'm willing to die for my grandchildren?
Well, you should go ahead and do that then.
And that was the lieutenant governor of Texas, actually, who said that.
Yeah, there are definitely people with priorities that are divergent from my own.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, well, everyone's entitled to an opinion, I suppose, but that's not one that I would adhere to. I mean, look, it's affecting everybody, and geez, all the money in the world can't help you if you get sick and you're at risk.
Well, let's talk a little music then, Freddie. The new album, First in 5 Years, Eternity Now, was to be released on the 27th. Is that still going to be released on the 27th?
No.
Okay. So you pushed. Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah. You said you pushed it back till May.
Yeah.
You also have, and you've got Alex Lifeson playing on it.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah, I'd say.
I'm still like, the 17-year-old me is still freaking out about it. He's been an amazing supporter and buddy, and just a great cheerleader for me for decades. He's been a very influential person in my life, just in terms of, even from my earliest days of just, loving rock and roll records, and was a huge Rush fan, as so many of us are.
Yeah.
So when I met, in my adult life, to meet him, and professionally to, get to collaborate and do some stuff, he's come out and played with us on occasion. And when I asked him to play on the new record, he immediately, not only did he say yes, but my inbox became flooded with guitar tracks, acoustic guitar tracks, some banjo parts, a ripping solo, couple of takes of ripping solo. I was like, is this actually even happening? I don't know. There's his guitar in the background, if you can see it for the folks watching. See
really?
That white one there. Yeah.
The double neck, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
So what's that like when you're thinking, boy, I'd love Alex to be on my album? Like, what's that decision like to actually ask him to be on? Like, are you nervous? Do you lose sleep over it? Do you pick the right time?
Well, just because I know him to be such a chill guy, and he's so easy to talk to and easy to reach, and there's no, like, he doesn't put that out there. He doesn't make himself hard to approach, so it's easy. But then when I'm sitting in my studio and I'm putting up the tracks and listening to it, there is that little tingle of, no, come on, is this really, am I really doing this? Come on, yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that, because it's Alex Lifeson, and you're a guitar player. He's a guitar player. When he sends you something, do you have, what if you want to adjust it slightly? Like, what's that email or phone call like? Hey, listen, Alex Lifeson, I know you're one of the best guitar players on the planet, but what I'd like you to do in this one spot.
Oh, have you got insider info? Did you have spies or something?
No, I'm just curious.
Well, here's what I did. Well, I'm embarrassed to say I maybe send me a second take.
That sucks.
Awesome. I
Awesome.
can't believe it. But no, the thing is, because he has such a great sense of humor, I emailed him back and said, the artist is flipping out and loves what you sent, but the producers are real prick.
That's
and
funny.
Is asking you to do another. Of course, I'm the producer, so that's.
Well, listen.
So
man.
he took the humor of it and sent it back to me, and of course, it was glorious, and I put it in the track, and it's perfect, and
That's amazing.
And he's amazing because he's a guy. Not only can I call and ask him to play, I can ask for a second take. I mean, you don't get that with too many people of that stature.
Hey, Gordy, you're an established guy. You could probably weather this storm better than others. I've been to Austin, Texas. I mean, all the bars and the young talent that uses those bars to promote themselves shut right down. I mean, what are those people going through? I mean, I can't imagine all those people that play those bars for tips and to be seen and promote themselves. That's just all shut down.
Yeah, it's rough on everybody. You know who I think is being hit the hardest in our industry, though, are our crew people, guitar techs, sound guys, all the roadies, lighting guys. Whether you own a PA company, staging, all that behind the scenes, the people that, you can't put on these festivals without that. You don't go on tour without, even bands who travel with one extra person as a crew guy. Mm-hmm. They're not sitting at home posting stuff on Facebook Live. Look I'm going to do a string change and guitar setup for somebody famous. Watch me do it on Facebook. They're not doing that. Musicians are sitting there with acoustic guitars and playing and putting stuff live on the air. And that's a great way to keep your creative juices flowing and keep some contact with the people that follow you. But for the people that support us and get us on stage and in tune and lit and where you can hear us, man, they're the people I really feel for the most, because they don't have an alternate plan. I can sit here and write my next record and sit and make demos in the studio, and a lot of things that we can do as creative people. They're no less creative. They have absolutely no alternate plan, so the sooner we get back up and running, I really hope that all of our technical people can keep
that's a great point.
We're not putting on shows without them.
Well, I was going to say, just as a way to wrap this up on your point about technical people that support bands like Big Sugar, the album, when it comes out, is called Eternity Now, features Alex Lifeson, and the band was scheduled to be the first band to play the main floor of the newly renovated El Macombo, and one day when that opens, hopefully we all get a chance to come and see you play. But we certainly appreciate you taking some time with us this morning.
Well, we really look forward to getting back to Toronto and getting back to Canada and touring and putting on shows and getting back to this thing that we do. And hopefully everybody can just, keep their...
Oh, I think he froze there. Thanks, Gordy. Really appreciate it, man.
Good
Thanks
talking
a lot.
to you,
Good talking to you, my friend.
Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
And Phil says, thumbs up too. Always a pleasure. Yes. Take care, my brother. Okay,
Thanks,
let me
Phil.
do that.
Thanks,
Phil,
guys.
stop, make host, put on hold, remove. There we go. Yes. Okay, just
Again,
you can just
just
hang up,
another-
Cord.
Just another situation, just another example of as we've referred to it as the ripple effect. It's crazy, affecting so many people.
Well, he made an interesting point about, well, so did you, in terms of those people in Austin. It's just another.
Well, Austin's a lot like Nashville. Young talent, good talent. When you go into a bar in Nashville or Austin, everybody is amazing that's performing. It's the cream of the crop. But even at that level, those people depend so much on tips.
Yeah.
Like you go into a bar, you just know for that act that you're seeing on stage that is a cut above what you would normally see in a bar that size, you tip. I mean, that's how they get paid. And now that's all come to an end.
Before we wrap up the show, we've got a couple more people to thank. Of course, our friends at Palma Pasta. If Gordy Johnson was in studio, we would give him a delicious Palma Pasta, choice of vegetarian and or meat. And I noticed from seeing what Anthony Petrucci is posting on Twitter, Palma Pasta is one of those places that is open for business in terms of delivery. They use Skip the Dishes. We'd like you to use Palma Pasta when it comes to your delicious food delivery in these troubled times. PalmaPasta.com. Go check it out. Go to humbleandfredradio.com if you want to click through to Palma Pasta and the amazing food that they supply.
And Howard, guess who has a new pacemaker?
Yes.
The retirement Sherpa. I saw yesterday that he's doing well. He came through the procedure with flying colors, and now his ticker is ticking exactly the way it should be ticking, which means he's in great shape to deal with the landscape in front of him now. Again, the markets were down yesterday. I'm getting used to seeing all that red, and those concerned about their portfolios, again, you need an expert to analyze it, to calm you, to explain to you the situation. You're in it for the long term, not the short term, and the Sherp's the guy that can help get you through that. So even if you have a guy now and you're not happy, talk to the Retirement Sherpa, retirementsherpa.ca, and Tim, he has a nice calming effect. He's the guy for you.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. At some point yesterday, I should just see where it is. Tim Niblett. This happened at like 1:45 in the afternoon. He said, "Home soon, went great." Now, he just had yesterday morning, he had that surgery. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, it's like, I guess they want to get you up and out of the hospital as quickly as possible in general. But nowadays, I guess more than ever. So that was nice to hear from Tim, and I just heard from another one of our friends and supporters, Rudra Rishi Maharaj, just sent me a note. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's official. The Olympics are delayed for 1 year.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That way everybody can breathe. And, Canadians were being applauded, even by Americans yesterday. A lot of American athletes went online because Canada was the first country to say, whether you have them or not this year, we're not coming. Athletes come first. And there was a lot of American athletes that jumped on that bandwagon and said, way to go, Canada. I mean, you've set the stage. You've been the first ones to do this, assuming that many would follow. And obviously, that's what happened. Who cares whether it's 20 or 21?
No,
I mean,
no
it's
one
the
cares.
Olympics.
And kind of getting back to the theme of how the show started about, I was just saying that, we're going to have to accept that this is what's happening now. And I know I've talked about the idea of, denial, acceptance, and action. But, I was thinking back to my parents, your parents, who were, like, my dad was in his late teens, early 20s when World War II started. And we always think about the men and women that went and actually fought, but in the society that they left behind, in the societies of the world during those times, there were rations and there was life changed for those people. and they got on with it. And we haven't been tested like this as a society in a long time.
What was that meme I saw the other day? It was, come on, people, stop complaining. All we're doing is asking you to stay home and do nothing.
Yeah. Well, no, exactly. It's like I said to you last week, my dad, your grandfather, those guys volunteered to go to war and maybe die. All we're being asked to is, order Uber Eats.
Yeah.
I would just say, when we're going to do a little podcast extra for you people as well, and we'll rant more about Trump, but, I've tried to think about, well, how do we get through every day? And it is overwhelming. And I go back and forth between being, like worried and bummed out and freaking out about my kid in New York. And I think, okay, well, what can you do today? And all I can do today is stay healthy and hope that all my friends and family stay healthy and just do our little part. Because that's all we're being asked to do. Just do your little part.
No, exactly. And I mean, that's as proactive as you can be. Other problems in your life or situation, you can get up in the morning and go, today I'm going there and I'm going to fix this. Well, we don't have that. All we can do is what you said, stay home, be a good citizen, and wait this thing out. That's it.
Yeah.
So, and it's almost like, I really haven't got wound up over this, to be honest. I mean, I'm concerned about the stock market and investments because, I'm near retirement age. But the overall thing really hasn't gotten to me yet. I was thinking about that this morning because I had another great night's sleep. And I thought, boy, in a couple of weeks from now, am I going to be like a nervous wreck? Like, where are we going to be?
Well, what's
the use of that? Because you can't control anything.
Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to say goodbye. Phil, do your thing, and we'll leave it on those are our final statements for AM radio. If you want to hear more, go to humbleandfredradio.com. Thanks to everyone that listened. Thanks to everyone that was our guest. Stay healthy, and hopefully we'll all be back here again tomorrow. Phil?
This episode of Humble and Fred Radio is brought to you by FYI Music News, The Retirement Sherpa, Gig Sky, The Chambers Plan, Palma Pasta, CDN Technologies, and our newest sponsor, Sticker You, where you can get your stickers on Queen Street or order anywhere in the world. We broadcast to the planet from the worldwide headquarters of the Humble and Fred Show. More Humble and Fred tomorrow and online at humbleandfredradio.com.
And I'm bound to fall for you. Oh, what can I do? Yeah. Take my badge, but my heart remains loving you.
Well, considering that Phil was operating that computer, did you finally get the computer to work, Phil? Was operating remotely?
Looks like a ghost inside the computer if you want to look at it.
So
I'm working on it.
I was just going to say, considering that we got on Funny 820 and Phil finally got the computer to run on Facebook Live and on Twitch, and that you're in your office, what did you do? You turn on a light?
Yeah, an overhead light.
Yeah, I can see you better now. So when I'm typing to you, you can see that?
No, yes, I can. But you know what, Howard? I clicked off when I was reading something, I clicked off and then forgot to put the chat back on.
So what I'll do...
I see 7:39, you said, let's wrap this up. With Joe? Yeah.
No, I just want to see if you're seeing those, because I've got all my screens open, but because that way you can take it, or anyway, we're still broadcasting for the people. You know, what I said to about, just like, and you sort of echoed what I was saying in that I'm not that wound up either, because all I can do is what's in front of me. It's not the where anxiety, I think, comes from a lot. And again, we're lucky. A lot of people we know, I'm on a group chat with a bunch of golf guys, and they're freaking the fuck out, and they're like, because they have businesses and they have employees and they're just like, we're lucky. I mean, we're not an essential service, but we're a service that can continue. And as long as our sponsors support us, we can continue to do this.
On that point, what's the saying? You don't know till you walk in another man's shoes.
Yeah.
Look at your buddies you run companies, you're responsible for other people's families and incomes and feeding their families and blah, blah, blah. You hear Trump say that maybe we're going to change our course. If you're in that position, how do you not, part of you go, yeah, maybe let's try that because I'm desperate right now. I can't see beyond 3 weeks fiscally, right? So yeah, maybe we should do that. To be fair, it's like, and that's going to be the mindset in the United States. I mean, that was music to a lot of ears yesterday when he said that.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's why I did some reading this morning when I woke up at 5. But Trump didn't just create that last night. He had been getting a lot of pressure from businesses and economists and a lot of people in his ears saying, this is, that's where he, by the way, that's where he didn't make that up. The cure is worse than the problem. That's him assimilating information he's been given. And you can see if you're a small business or you're a business in general, you support other people, you're looking at like, what if our business can't survive this economic downturn?
Yeah. Yeah, like it's just so wild. And as each week goes by, economically for people, our families, when I'm going to go another week now without seeing my grandkids, I haven't seen my son in 2 months now. I was away for a month and he was away the month prior to that. And now I may not see him for another month. At what point does that really wear thin and become, oh, we can't see you and let's do Facebook too?
Yeah.
I'm tired of this. I really need, I'm tired of it.
I
That's
know.
not that far away.
But as okay. Well, I haven't seen, I saw Charlie in Phoenix, but if she hadn't come to see me, and that was in February, I've seen Spencer once in 2 months. Mm-hmm. And all of those are true and hardships and etc. But, like talking to Joanne in Italy this morning, like I don't even know if we understand how serious this is. And maybe we won't understand. I'm saying you and I and Phil and our friends and our Facebook friends and all those. Maybe we won't get how serious it is until we see army trucks pulling out corpses, driving down the fucking Queensway. And so, if a few months go by to ensure the health of our society, well, I say so be it,
Oh, no, I without a doubt. And the thing is, 3 weeks from now, I can be stressed out about the markets. I could have lost a lot of money. I haven't seen my family in a long time. The thing is, I know I'm going to have to trudge through it, but my mindset's going to be a lot different in 2 weeks than it is today. But there's not going to be anything we can do about it. If it's the status quo, then that you're going to have to deal with it. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot harder than it is today, but you're going to have to do it.
So. Well, because, all the economics aside, if huge numbers of people die in the population, the economics aren't going to matter as much. It's like I think, strategically, maybe we can just switch gears to politically for a second, because a lot of what Trump is doing narcissistically is for self-preservation.
Oh, yeah.
But let's just take that for a second. If politically a bunch of human beings, if he opens up business and it's time to get back to work, America, and hordes of people die, politically he's also finished. So he's kind of making, it's almost like a weird risk to take, not only with our lives, but it's a weird political risk to take. What do you think of that?
No, I think you're dead on. It's like, because of the great unknown, it's hard to really analyze anything. Even myself, sometimes I think when I see what's happening in Italy, subconsciously I'm telling myself, yeah, but that's not going to happen here. That's not going to happen here. Because I can't conceive of it. But again, 2 weeks ago, I couldn't conceive where we are just to this point of this state of emergency, Toronto, lockdown, Ontario. 2 weeks ago, I couldn't have thought. So 2 weeks from now, am I going to be sitting here going, holy cow, 5,000 Canadians have died? Or,
Well,
I don't know what to make of it.
I was looking when we were talking to Joanne a few hours ago. I remember looking, because I think I've mentioned, we all have different places we visit. The thing I've been looking at, it's called worldometer.info / it's I think one that a lot of people are looking at. So when I'm going to refresh my browser right now. It says coronavirus cases 386,406, deaths 16,747, and when I hit refresh, it's gone up by 6,000. That's cases, and I don't know what the death total is, but I'll tell you, the U.S. has 2,434 new cases. Canada has no new cases as reported, but 2,000 cases in total. So where Canada is now is kind of where Italy was when Joanne was describing that dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
And now look where Italy is. Italy's at the... Oh, fuck. Where did it go? Anyway, they've got a lot. I'm sorry. Italy's at... 63,927 and 6,077 deaths.
Like, are the rollover numbers there like that thing they were saying? In a week, it went up 1,000, and then it took 3 days after that for it to go up another 1,000, and then 1 day after that to go up another 1,000.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me.
How do you know how much we've gone up since yesterday?
I can tell you that.
400.
Yeah.
400 what cases?
About 400 cases.
Yeah. So yesterday we had 2,000. Okay, so I think we actually went down, Phil.
How do we go down?
Okay, so I'm looking at Canada. It says 2,091 cases now, and then yesterday was. No, I don't have that. I for some reason it's not refreshing here. Anyway, it's all just fucked, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Numeris aren't doing the numbers because they're fucked.
We have a tested device in every single view.
That's a radio joke.
I was going to say, explain what that is. That's fucking hilarious. Yeah, fucking Numeris.
That's the rating system for
That's
radio.
right. Everyone's number one in Numeris land.
A COVID-19 diary.
Oh, that's fucking funny, man.
I was
That's a Numeris. Yeah, well, I hope Numeris does the numbers for Canada the way they used to do it for our morning show, which is underreport it. Or maybe they overreported it. I don't know. It's just fucking wild, man. So Tim's okay. Hold on. Who's this? Carly Blackwell. Hello. Hello. This is Howard. Can I call you back? Okay, is this about, it's somebody from iTex, Fred. Are we in trouble?
iTex? How could we be in trouble?
Fred, Carly's following up about a service that you had. Oh, no, was it the cleaning?
I didn't.
With Doug Hancock, your lawyer, the lawyer guy.
Oh, yes.
Should I tell her everything was great?
Yes.
Everything was great.
Done. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Carly. All right. Bye-bye. Did you get Doug to redo your wills?
No, he, I'll tell you later.
All right.
It's not necessarily for public consumption.
All right. So, Phil, how are things in the under the stairs with your little Harry Potter thing there, man? You all right?
I'm being tortured by my cat Cecil. He's just running around. It's his physical hour now.
Oh,
so
is it?
Jesus, floorboards.
Okay.
Phil, do you use that room as a rec room? I'm looking at it. There seems to be bookshelves and a printer and.
Oh yeah, it's mainly office stuff. Like so, I do my work here and Bess does and things like that. Yep.
Oh, well, very
nice. You ever thought of having?
Yeah.
You ever thought of having the basement finished? Like,
it's partially finished. Like there's a portion of this area where there's a finished washroom and there's a bedroom that's been finished and everything, but I don't use it. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever told you. Like my parents, we had a basement. I guess technically it was finished in that there was that weird 60s and 70s whatever that shit people put up against the wall was kind of wooden. What was that?
Oh yeah. Like wallboard.
Like wallboard.
You mean like this?
Paneling. Wood
Well,
paneling.
thank you, Fred. It was wood paneling. Yeah, exactly. And,
I like that.
yeah. And so we had a ping pong table down there, and the piano was there, and my mother's the laundry room was there. But I do remember when my dad had and we had no bathroom downstairs. We had one bathroom. And I remember the summer that my father had a bathroom put in the basement along with a shower. And for for a little Glassman family on the prairies, it was a big deal. I remember I was young enough when it happened, Fred, that during the day I was okay to go down there. I might have been like 6, 7, or 8. I have no idea. But I was okay to go down there to go to the bathroom if I had to. But at night, I did not. I didn't, because it was such a novelty because we always had our baths, in the main floor bathroom, the only bathroom. In fact, I remember pretty much having baths until we had a shower downstairs. Do you remember those days when people would bathe? But we didn't bathe every day.
Howard, when I was a kid, I used to say, Mom and Dad, can I have a shower? And they'd say, no, it uses too much water.
Yeah.
And it was the exact opposite. It was the exact opposite. I don't know what it was. And then finally, as soon as I sort of hit puberty, I stopped asking. There was always a shower curtain there. I just started having showers. I didn't feel clean after a bath.
Well, this installation, the great renovation at the Glassman family home on Henry Street, happened before I was a teenager, I'm sure. Because I still remember being sort of nervous to go down in the basement at night if I was to go to the washroom or to have a shower. But I do remember it being like, wow, we're really doing well. It was just a shitty little, like, fabricated shower. It wasn't very, and again, I remember in the later years when I would go visit my father, going down there, and the floor hadn't, Fred, the floor had just, like, old shitty tile on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a big deal.
I remember as a kid in the 70s, the house I grew up in, Scarborough, all those houses, they were 1950s bungalows, all had beautiful hardwood floors, but everybody covered them up with carpet.
That's right.
Because if you went into a house and it was just the hardwood floors, you were hard up.
Yeah, man.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I bet you if I went on that street now, every house you go in, I bet those hardwood floors are exposed and gleaming. And times, eh? Times they change. Hey, Phil, did you know that times change?
Phil!
Oh, I've seen some of the change.
I love it. Hey, Phil.
Yeah.
Do you know about times?
They change, apparently.
They do. Phil, let me ask you 2 questions. Do you know about times, and do you know that they change?
I didn't know that they change. How much?
Hey, can I ask you guys a technical question?
Yeah.
Phil, this little video Zoom meeting screen that we have, there's an option for me to share my screen with you two or anyone else, watching this, or anyone else, I should say, that we have as guests. Is there not a technological option for us to share this screen as our output on Facebook? And is that just not possible?
I just think it's probably not technically feasible if you're talking about our situation right now with everyone being remote. It's like I remembered Sean had a solution to it, but it involved like taking one of the webcams and then smacking it on the screen, and then I'd have to log in. There's just a lot of work involved with that.
All right. Well, my brother Stephen is weighing in from Edmonton 3 minutes ago, said, honestly, the sound is very good, almost like you guys are all in the same room. Amanda Barker says, Joanne Natali? I don't know if she knows her.
Yes.
That was 7 minutes ago. Scott Valkenbridge an hour ago said, hey, is that Howard and Fred on my internet? And in fact, it is.
What did she say about Natalie?
Just one. I think she was asking what was her last name. I don't know. Just yeah.
Phil, why couldn't we take one of those cameras? Why couldn't Howard get a load of this now? Howard gets my computer, opens it up, gets the screen with all of us on it, and then you take one of the cameras on the table and point it right at the screen. And that could be the Facebook feed.
I believe we tried that once. We used one of the webcams to show you while you were at your cottage, but I thought there were like issues with you trying to operate the show there, Howard.
No.
Now I know
No,
what
you're
Fred's
not getting
saying.
what I'm saying.
The only thing about that, Fred, is
Oh, yeah.
that
What?
I would have to. I don't know how I would open up the Zoom meeting also on your computer. Do you know what I mean? Like it's on my computer.
You log in as me.
No, I meant like. Let's think about this.
Well, you just joined the meeting.
Yeah, I joined the meeting on that computer, Phil. There you go. I could just join the meeting on Fred's computer and then just put one of these cameras on that and people could see it.
On the screen.
On the screen.
That makes sense.
Well, let's try it.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right.
How's he going to do that when he's there, though?
So as long as I've got control, I think I'm able to control the cameras from there, because it's coming through the same computer. I just have to make sure that you're aiming at the right screen. That's all.
Okay. Well, I got to go take a piss.
All right. See ya.
Well, don't go away because we got to talk and see what they're doing, and we got to do the show. Remember, we're going to put the show up, and I want you to stick around here so we can have our little post-show
No, I
meeting.
meant to see you for the podcast.
Oh, podcast people, yeah. Stan hasn't had anyone to bark at this whole morning. There's something new. All right, guys. Well, everyone will stay healthy and safe and stay strong, America.